Today, we are going to talk about the 10 best horror books that I read in 2025. Most of these came out this year, but some of them are older. They're just the best horror that I have read personally. We have Unhinged Women, Odd Lynchian Horror, Vampires, Post-Apocalyptic Horror, Horror in the Woods, Witches, and more. And so the order in which I do this is from, because none of these are ever least. I'm always like, it's not least to best. It's great to I absolutely adored these books. So the first one on this list is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. It takes place kind of secluded in the woods in a cabin. Margot and Mama have lived in the forest ever since Margot can remember. When Margot's not at school, they spend quiet days together in their cottage, waiting for strangers to knock on the door. Strays, Mama calls them. People who've strayed too far from the road. Mama loves the strays. She feeds them wine, keeps them warm. Then she satisfies her burning appetite by picking apart their bodies. But Mama's want is stronger than her hunger sometimes. And when a beautiful white-toothed stray named Eden turns up in the heart of a snowstorm, Margot must confront the shifting dynamics of her family, untangle her own desires, and make her bid for freedom. And it is creepy and beautifully written and absolutely deranged and unhinged. And it's a fantastic horror. If you're not into horror that has cannibalism, I would not recommend it then. All right, so after that one, we have a short little novella, and that is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Faito. This book is very deranged and unhinged as well. So, a little bit about it. Winifred Naughty arrives at Enzer House, prepared to play the perfect governess. She'll dutifully tutor her charges. Drusilla and Andrew tell them bedtime stories and only joke about eating the children. But long, listless days spent within the estate's dreary confines come with an intimate knowledge of the perversions and pathetic preoccupations of the Pounds family. Mr. Pounds can't keep his eyes off Winifred's chest, and Mrs. Pounds takes a sickly pleasure in punishing Winifred for her husband's wandering gaze. Compounded with her disdain for the entitled Pounds children, Winifred finds herself struggling at every turn to stifle the violent compulsions of her past. French tutoring and needlework are one way to pass the time, as is admiring the ugly portraits in the gallery and creeping across the moonlit lawns. Patience. Winifred must have patience, for Christmas is coming, and she has a very special gifts planned for the dear souls of the Enzer house. Can you only imagine what the gifts are? And it's a good thing that this house is so big. There's a lot of places to hide bodies in case any bodies should appear. Yep. If you don't always have time to read like a full-on larger horror book, this is a really good horror novella. Next up, I love me a good vampire read. That is Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. So it's the winter of 1975 in Portland, Oregon. It's all sleet and neon. Dwayne Minor's back home after a tour in Vietnam. A bartender just trying to stay sober, save his marriage with his wife Heidi, and connect with his 13-year-old niece, Julia, now that he's responsible for raising her. Things aren't easy, but Minor's scraping by. Then a vampire walks into his bar and ruins his life. When Minor crosses John Varley, a killer who sleeps during the day beneath loose drifts of earth and grows teeth in the light of the moon, Varley brutally retaliates by murdering someone very close to him. I feel like it would be a giant spoiler if I say who it is, so I'm not going to. But if you read the synopsis, you'll know who it is. So, leaving Minor broken with guilt, so begins a furious, frenzied pursuit across the Pacific Northwest and beyond, from grimy alleyways to desolate highways to snow-lashed plains. Minor and his companion are cast into the dark orbit of undead children, silver bullet casings, and the bevy of broken men transfixed by Varley's ferocity. Everybody's out for blood. It is a really great story. It's got so many shades of gray in it. While Varley is a very inhuman character, there's also moments in it that you see a little bit of a flicker of emotion. This is an author that I have recently discovered in the past couple of years. I just really love his writing. His other books that I've read was the Fever House duology, which was absolutely fantastic and so deranged and gory. If you like vampire books and you haven't read this one yet, definitely check it out. All right, up next we have Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. And this is like horror on the lighter side because I never felt like it was ever too gruesome, but it's such an emotionally visceral story and it's told so well. And how Grady Hendrix is able to put himself into the mindset of a teenage girl and what they experienced was truly like, I couldn't believe a man wrote this book, if I'm being honest. It was done so well. It's so good. So they call them wayward girls. Loose girls, girls who grew up too fast, and they're sent to the Wellwood House in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, to give them up for adoption, and most important of all, to forget any of it ever happened. 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in the sweltering summer of 1970, pregnant, frightened, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. There's Rose, a hippie who insists she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape the commune. And Zinnia, a budding musician who plans to marry her baby's father. Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mutant pregnant, but no one knows by who. Everything the girls eat, every moment of their waking day, and everything they're allowed to talk about is strictly controlled by the adults who claim they know what's best for them. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft. And power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. But power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually paid in blood. I do have standalone reviews for most of these books. So I will link those all below in the description of the video so you can get a little more on the book and a little more in depth of what it's all about. All right, so after that one, we have a very Lynchian style horror. And it's so weird. It's got cosmic elements to it. It's a haunting, but it's so like out there and strange. It's one of those ones I need to return to and read again. And it's one of those ones that I can't quite wrap my head around if I'll truly ever understand exactly what happened, but I really enjoyed it. And that is This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. So it follows the story of Diego and Vera. It's Vera's idea to buy the Itza, which is basically like an Alexa. It's the world's most advanced smart speaker. And that didn't interest Diego, but Vera thought it would be a bit of fun for them amidst all the strange occurrences happening in the condo. It made things worse. The cold spots and the scratching in the walls was weird enough, but peculiar packages started showing up at the house. Who ordered the industrial eye or the giant pink floppy dildo? Then there was the eerie music at odd hours. Diego waking up to the Itza projecting light shows in an empty room. It was funny and strange right up until Vera was killed. And Diego's world became unbearable. Pundits and politicians all looking to turn his wife's death into a symbol for their own agendas. A barrage of texts from her well-meaning friends about letting go and moving on. Waking to the sounds of Itza talking softly to someone in the living room. The only thing left to do was get far away from Chicago. Away from everything and everyone. A secluded cabin in Colorado seemed like the perfect place to hole up with his crushing grief. But soon, Diego realizes there is no escape. Not from his guilt, not from his simmering rage, and not from the evil hunting him. Feeding on his grief and determined to make its way into this world. And it is so flippin' weird, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, up next we have The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. Like, this seemed to be like a hit or miss book with people. I loved it. These teenagers go camping in the woods. They find this random staircase to nowhere. 5 high school friends are bonded by an oath to protect one another no matter what. Then, on a camping trip in the middle of the forest, they find something extraordinary, a mysterious staircase to nowhere. One friend walks up and never comes back down. Then the staircase disappears. 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared. Now the group returns to find the lost boy and what lies beyond the staircase in the woods. Like, for me, the most thing that got me in the curiosity of wanting to read it was like, where did that guy go when the staircase disappears? And like, how would Wendig get into like explaining what happened? Like, where did this person go? Was it another dimension? Was it like a pocket in time? Like, what happened? Did they just cease to exist forever and ever? Did they teleport to another place on the globe? Like, who knows? Where that staircase goes is quite fascinating. When that happened, it almost seems like it kind of stunted all these people emotionally, where they never quite grew. And the 20 years later, when they reunite, they have to deal with all those emotional like issues and baggage that they never dealt with at the time, and that all comes up, like all their like old teenage insecurities and stuff come forward. So next up we have another strange, what I would call kind of Lynchian vibe horror, and that is The Red Knot by Monique Asher. I absolutely love this book. It is so weird and deranged and awesome. On a tiny, isolated island off the southern Alaskan coast, 3 girls have vanished without a trace, and Audra's close friend, the island's therapist, has been found murdered. A recent storm has severed all communication with the outside world, leaving Audra, the town's lead detective, trapped at the head of a very personal case. Her lead suspect, Valerie, the daughter of a notorious cult leader and the town's outcast, was discovered blood-covered and dazed at the crime scene. Valerie's memory is a gaping void, a dark well hiding traumatic secrets, including the truth about the teenage kidnappings that haunt the island. As Audra digs deeper into the town's twisted history, it becomes clear other murders on the island, dating back for decades, might be connected. The clock is ticking for the missing girls, and every clue leads Audra to question even those she's known her whole life. Valerie must confront the horrors of her past while Audra's investigation becomes a descent into madness. And it truly is a descent into madness. Oh boy. On this cursed island, the line between neighbor and nightmare blurs, revealing that true horror often wears a familiar face. If you haven't had a chance to read this author yet, I would recommend starting with this one. All right, now we're getting into my top 3. Number 3 is When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. This book is super weird too, and when I first picked it up, I was like, oh, a werewolf horror book. Sweet, I love those. But it's so much weirder and so more X-Files-y than that. X-Files-y, that's how I would describe it. It's so weird, and I loved it. So one night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, Jess slowly comes to a horrifying understanding of the butchery that follows them. The boy can turn his every fear into reality, and when the wolf finally comes home, no one will be spared. Now imagine a child and their imagination running wild, so every time they get afraid, that thing comes into existence. So we have Jess trying to like temper that this whole time when they're running. Yeah, if you have been a fan of stories that have that kind of like X-Files vibe, When the Wolf Comes Home is awesome. Nat Cassidy has become a must-read author for me, so whenever he has a new book, I definitely like to check it out. All right, next we have number 2, and that is the book Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This book is brutal and deranged and so appropriate for the times that we're living in right now. Noah has been losing his polite Southern parents to far-right cable news for years. So when his mother leaves him a voicemail warning him that the Great Reawakening is here, he assumes it's related to one of her many conspiracy theories. But when his phone calls go unanswered, Noah makes a drive from Brooklyn to Richmond, Virginia. There he discovers that his childhood home is in shambles, and his parents are locked in a terrifying trance-like state in front of the TV. So panicked, Noah attempts to snap him out of it, but then Noah's mother brutally attacks him. But Noah isn't the only person being attacked by a loved one. Families across the country are tearing each other apart, literally, as people succumb to a form of possession that gets worse the more time they spend glued to a screen. In Noah's Richmond-based family, only he and his young nephew Marcus are unaffected. Together, they must race back to the safe haven of Brooklyn, but can they make it before they fall prey to violent hordes? All right, now for the number 1. And as I said, not all of these were written this year. This one was written quite some time ago, but I read it this year and I loved it, and it is my number 1, and that is The Stand by Stephen King. This might also be my all-time favorite Stephen King book. I mean, if you've been around the channel, you know I'm a big Stephen King fan, but this book, man, it's the story, the characters, the journey, the good versus evil, the way people grow and they change, the emotional quality of it, it stays with you and it lives in your mind, and you're just like, holy crap, that was a great book. A man escapes from a military biological weapon facility after an accident, carrying with him the deadly virus known as Captain Trips, a rapidly mutating flu that in the ensuing weeks wipes out most of the world's population. In the aftermath, survivors choose between following an elderly black woman to Boulder or the Dark Man, Randall Flagg, who has set up his command post in Las Vegas. The two factions prepare for a confrontation between the forces of good and evil, and it's a story of rebuilding and faith and redemption and insidious evil, the greed of man, and so many things. There's so much in this. Like, the way Stephen King puts together a story, really, like, it's like an artist. I mean, yeah, there's a reason that he's the king, right? I don't know. But yeah, this was my favorite horror book that I read this year. What were some of your favorite horror books that you read this year? Let me know, because I'm always looking for more good ones to read. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.